Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we begin with a controversy and an ousting. The Conservatives have dropped their candidate in a local riding. Dawson Chen explains why with our top story.
Just over a week since the announcement of Canada's federal election, and there's already heavy drama in the riding of Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. Mark McKenzie is no longer running for the Conservatives. That's according to the federal Tory party, who are describing McKenzie's past comments as clearly unacceptable. Those comments, as first reported by CTV News, were in a comedy podcast episode from February 2022. On the Mark and Chris podcast, McKenzie can be heard saying he's in favor of the death penalty, laughing about public hangings and the electric chair, and suggesting Justin Trudeau as someone deserving such a sentence. McKenzie's candidacy was already under some criticism because he was appointed by the Conservative Party, bypassing the normal voting process for party candidates. His loss of the candidacy came just as suddenly, with a party spokesperson emailing media this morning, just 12 hours after McKenzie appeared at a campaign event. McKenzie did not respond to CBC Windsor's request for comment, but Chris Talmy, who was McKenzie's co-host on the podcast, says their dialogue was intended to be humorous.
Throw a little comedy in there. If you find it funny, you find it funny. If you didn't, you didn't. Obviously, in hindsight, a lot of people have not found that funny. In today's political climate, not surprised. Words have consequences. So again, if people want to hold him to a standard and don't believe he should represent Windsor, Tecumseh Lakeshore, or the Conservative Party, that's up to them. For the most part, the podcast was comedy and joking. Was he serious at the time? You'd have to ask him specifically, but in my mind, I was never serious on that podcast.
University of Windsor political science professor Lydia Miljan says it's surprising this wasn't found out sooner.
It's interesting that he was able to get through the vetting process without this coming to light. He continues to be a Windsor City Councillor, so I think that the vetting's probably not as rigorous for somebody who's well known as opposed to somebody who doesn't have a public profile.
It's not yet clear who will be replacing McKenzie as a Conservative candidate for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. As of noon on April 1st, McKenzie's name was still on the Elections Canada website. The party has until April 7th to nominate a new candidate. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
In the next riding over, a retired police officer is hoping to unseat the NDP's Brian Massey in Windsor West. Harb Gill is running for the Conservative Party, and he officially launched his campaign last night, surrounded by supporters. Gill spent a good portion of his speech criticizing Massey and the NDP record. Here's some of what he had to say.
For 23 years, Windsor West has been held by the NDP. And what do we have to show for it? No seat at the governing table, no influence where real decisions are being made, policies that drive away investment instead of bring them in. Look around our city. Windsor was once a manufacturing powerhouse. I've been here nearly 40 years. This is not what Windsor was. This is a shell of what it used to be. We need to change that. And the only way we can change that is if we elect a Conservative government. Over the past 20 years, we have lost more good-paying union jobs. I am a lifelong union member. Unions are the backbone of this city's economy, but we are not doing them any service or help by chasing away investments.
Gill reiterated much of the party's national promises to eliminate all carbon taxes, cut income tax, and support skilled trades. And as a former police officer, Gill added that public safety is close to his heart and he'd be pushing to restore law and order. Some political observers are describing this as an existential election. The stakes are high, with U.S. President Donald Trump threatening both Canada's economy and sovereignty. Experts say that could lead to more people at the polls. CBC Windsor's Emma Loop has the story.
Voter turnout in recent Canadian federal elections has been on a decline, but experts say that could change this time around. U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs and annexation talk could drive more voters to the polls.
We're dealing with, an existential kind of an election where we're facing issues as a country that we have not seen before. at any time in our history. The situation that we're in would suggest that turnout should be, I would think, robust, or at the very least, maintaining the kinds of levels that we've had federally in the last while.
Turnout in the last federal election was roughly 63%. It's a notable drop from the 1980s, when turnout was 75%. It's still too early to say what it'll be for this election. But one advocate who works to get people to the polls says voters seem more engaged than usual.
I think, anytime people are on edge or uncertain, that there's a chance to sort of take that energy and direct it towards, civic engagement. But in terms of community organizations, there's definitely a recognition that, this is a very consequential election.
Voters might be even more motivated in Windsor, Essex, where tariffs could upend the local economy. The region's manufacturing sector is highly reliant on cross-border trade.
I think it's definitely possible that you'll see higher turnout in those bordering ridings with the United States because they are so front and center in this battle of rhetoric and now action that's being taken by the American government.
Trump is set to announce his next round of tariffs on Wednesday. The details are still unclear, but Canadian officials say they're ready to retaliate. Emma Loop, CBC News, Windsor.
And Colette Kennedy joins us now for our first look at weather. Colette, really a beautiful day today as we brace for some wet weather tomorrow.
Yeah, here we go. Another potent spring storm is tracking our way. So this was kind of that calm before it. As this moves in, we do have a rainfall warning for tomorrow and a thunderstorm risk, especially in the latter part of the day towards the evening, 30 to 40 or even 50 millimeters, especially, highly localized there, but where you do get some embedded thunderstorm cells. This is the system still off to the west of us. That's why we enjoyed a quieter day today. But overnight tonight, 2 degrees. We'll also have some windy conditions with these wet conditions. So much going on. I'm going to time it all out for you when I come back.
Sounds good. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Up next, a lawn ornament erected on an Amherstburg lawn is raising some eyebrows and some outrage. Jacob Barker has the story.
I'm here in Amherstburg where a sculpture on the front step of this house is catching the attention of passersby and has resulted in at least one formal complaint to the town.
Take the statue of David. The statue of David does have genitalia on it. People do have that statue in their yard. It is considered art. The genitalia is not the only thing on that piece of work. It is a whole human body. There is much more to it. This is a 4-foot tall penis, and it is meant to offend people.
Do you think that's the motivation of this individual, is to offend?
Either that or they have a really immature sense of humor.
Judy Carney says the phallic ornament just down the road from her has been on her neighbor's lawn for about 2 months. She thinks it's inappropriate and wants it removed. But she says the town has told her and others that there's nothing that can be done about it.
Because there are no bylaws in Amherstburg about what you can put in your yard.
An emailed statement from Amherstburg Mayor Michael Prue agrees, but he does say he thinks it is in poor taste and that he's going to check with other jurisdictions to see if there's anything that can be done. We did make efforts to get a hold of the person who lives at the house, but we were not successful. A neighbor told us that the person works out of town and is away for long stretches of time. They weren't sure if the resident even put the ornament out themselves or whether it might be friends pranking them. Regardless of how it got there, the decision to display it is a topic of debate for those in the town.
Nothing else really to say about that. It's a poor choice.
Do you think there should be a way to compel people to take that down?
When it comes to free speech, people make their decisions and people can react how they want to with it, but at the end of the day, it's still someone's choice to put up what they want.
If there is no rule, then they have the right to do that. But I feel like, the town could potentially have a meeting over that and maybe establish some from now on.
I actually don't find it acceptable, especially because I have young children, and I don't want them to see that as if we go by there.
Carney hopes her neighbor will consider removing the lawn ornament.
Once you see that, you can't unsee it.
Otherwise, the only option is to look the other way. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Amherstburg.
U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff deadlines are just hours away. He's set to announce his self-described Liberation Day levies Wednesday afternoon. One of the hits is a 25% tax on foreign-made vehicles entering the United States. Windsor's mayor has been furiously trying to lobby to minimize the damage of this. He says that Windsor's community, the heart of the auto industry, has so much to lose.
I feel sometimes just a bit powerless to make a difference because I have no direct tools at my disposal except my voice and the convening power of the mayor to bring people together, to get in front of people who hopefully can send messages back up into the Trump orbit. Allies on the U.S. side, I've met with more than a dozen mayors directly in Michigan who host auto communities, who understand the impact on their communities. And I'm talking Republican mayors and Democratic mayors.
He attended a mayor summit in Washington last week and says that even Republican mayors in Michigan acknowledge that tariffs would be harmful to the state's economy. And that's exactly what we're hearing from the mayor of Rochester Hills, just outside of Detroit. He points out that auto is the dominant industry for the region, and so tariffs would hurt businesses and families.
I'm doing as many interviews as I can to just share the conversation. As a locally elected official, I have a singular job, and that's to represent the residents of Rochester Hills. And in doing that, I'm hearing from both business owners and members of our community who work in the mobility industry, what they're saying on the front lines and what the challenges are. And so that's really what I'm trying to share, is that a state that I know that the president cares deeply about. He visited Michigan quite a few times in advance of the election. It's a state that supported him. And I know he cares a lot about both the auto industry and the rank and file auto worker. I mean, that was really his bread and butter in this last election was blue collar folk. And those are the folks that I think will be impacted the most. So I know he's listening, and I just hope that we're able to reach something of an agreement before too long.
So here we are yet again waiting on another tariff announcement, and there's a lot that we're looking out for. The specifics on autos set to kick in on Wednesday. What will those global reciprocal tariffs specifically entail? Will Trump unpause those far-reaching 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods? Now, Trump says that he'll be, quote, kind, but both of the mayors that we spoke with say the ideal scenario, no tariffs at all. Greenhouse growers are just one of the industries in our region that will be hit hard if Donald Trump moves forward with his tariffs. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick spent time in both Kingsville and Leamington and has more on what's at stake for the greenhouse business.
If these tariffs do go into place this week, the Canadian companies will try and pass that tariff cost along to their customers, who in turn will pass it along to American consumers. And the fear is if these Canadian products get too expensive for those American customers, they'll stop buying them and the demand will drop. We interviewed Richard Lee, who is executive director of the Ontario Greenhouse Vegetable Growers, a group that represents dozens and dozens of the greenhouses here in this area and throughout the province. And he said the crops are already planted, the investments are already made. These greenhouses are going to have products and they need to find a home for it, for those products. And he said right now the greenhouse growers are feeling a lot of angst.
You just get hit with a slew of different questions, concerns. What if? What are we going to do? How are we going to combat this? How are we going to survive? What other options do we have? So that uncertainty really jeopardizes business.
Now, Lee told us if these tariffs go into place and if they last for a long time, it could have, quote, dire consequences for the sector here. And he said thousands of jobs depend on this sector, about 35,000 in Ontario alone, connected to the whole supply chain with greenhouse growers.
That was the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick in Leamington, and she also spoke with some locals about what they want politicians to think about during the election.
The future for our kids, right? And we want all the best for them.
Well, housing's the most important thing, and people can't afford it.
Like $800,000 homes aren't our solution, right? Like we need some more that are more obtainable. Like what happened to the 2-3 bedroom small family home for only a couple $100,000 instead of the $800,000 monster homes.
So you just heard from the owner of Tony's Tacos in Leamington, along with some of her customers. We'll be right back with more news. Stay with us. Welcome back. It has been quite a while since Windsorites have seen gas prices this low. In some spots, less than $1.33 a liter. The price drop is due to the consumer carbon tax being removed. The tax officially lifted today, and it's had an immediate effect on the cost of fueling up, not just in Windsor, but across the country. Ilfo Musa has more on this.
Canada's consumer carbon tax is officially dead, and many drivers aren't exactly mourning it.
Definitely a good thing for the rest of us, for, people that fills up gas every day,
It really affects a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck and minimum wage.
Experts say savings at the gas pump will be the biggest, most immediate change. The price on pollution for gasoline translated to nearly 18 cents per liter. But today, in cities across the country, the cost of fuel was down.
It will no longer be free to pollute.
The consumer carbon tax was introduced by the Liberal government in 2019 to incentivize Canadians to transition to greener energy sources.
It's something that for a long time, right, people from a whole range of different perspectives came to accept as the best market-driven solution to climate change, and now it's dead.
Quebec is now the only province with a price on carbon. But this environmentalist says there are still things the federal government can do.
We could increase the restrictions on heavy industry that's producing most of the pollution. That's a really effective way to do it, and we're hoping to see that happen. There's also many other things we can do, like encourage more solar and wind electricity to replace the coal and oil and gas that we get electricity from now.
The federal carbon tax rebate is also coming to an end, but eligible Canadians can expect one last payment later this month. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Liberal Party leader Mark Carney kicked off day 10 of his campaign in Winnipeg, reiterating plans to help make life more affordable for Canadians.
On my first day as Prime Minister, I ended the consumer carbon tax. Today, that change takes effect.
That's Carney announcing the official end of consumer carbon tax. Scrapping it was his first act as Prime Minister. He's also promising a middle-class tax cut, helping first-time homebuyers afford a home and expanding dental coverage to more Canadians. Carney also met with Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew before holding a rally in Winnipeg. And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre reaffirmed his commitment to expanding the energy sector while campaigning in St. John's. CBC's Evan Dyer has the details.
Pierre Poilievre made his first stop in Newfoundland of this campaign, and he made a pitch focused on energy and pipelines, trying to draw a contrast between his own policies, which he said would greatly expand Canadian energy production.
We're going to unleash the production of our resources. We're going to support doubling oil and gas production here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We're going to back the offshore by repealing C-69, the No New Pipelines law, repealing the energy cap, repealing the entire carbon tax.
Contrasting that with the approach that he said his rival Liberal Mark Carney would take, accusing Mark Carney of having opposed big infrastructure projects for oil and gas in the past, including testifying against the Northern Gateway pipeline. Pierre Poilievre also made a promise to Newfoundlanders that he would double the oil output of that province, and generally just argued that he would be the one who would deliver on demands presented by Canada's 14 biggest energy companies that he said would be necessary to establish some kind of independence of the US, break dependency on US markets, and make Canada stronger in the face of threats from Donald Trump. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Fredericton.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says his party will fight against healthcare privatization in Canada.
Our Canadian healthcare system is not for sale and will never be for sale. New Democrats will ensure that.
Singh pushing back against what he called American-style healthcare during a campaign stop in Edmonton. He says the NDP would ban American corporations from buying up Canadian healthcare facilities and promised to crack down on clinics that charge Canadians for basic services. Singh accused the Conservatives for backing the expansion of for-profit care, and he also criticized the Liberals for being soft on provinces like Ontario and Alberta pushing private care models. And we'll have weather right after the break. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. Colette, earlier in the program you mentioned that rainfall warning. What else are you tracking?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of everything, whether I guess we want it or not. I mean, nice conditions today, just cool and a little bit breezy, nothing like what we're going to be seeing. So I'll get to that rainfall warning again that I was showing earlier in the show, but I do want to point out that as well there's a special weather statement, and not that far away, areas may see a little bit of freezing rain or freezing rain mixing with some ice pellets before the temperature rises and it changes to rain in these areas. So something to be aware of if you're going to be on the roads. Here's that rainfall warning. It will be windy as well, but 30 to potentially 50 millimeters of rain Wednesday and kind of Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, and that higher amount would be with some thunderstorms. So locally we could see those more significant numbers with that rainfall. Current temperatures, yeah, because it is cold, or cool at least, we do have that air in place, and that's why for so many it's going to start as kind of a mix. Elsewhere in the province where they've just, are still trying to recover from the ice storm, there's more ice to come, although it will be shorter lived, only a couple of hours and not over a couple of days. So just getting some of the increasing cloudiness kind of on the outer edge of this system, and then let's time this out for you. As we go into the morning hours, early morning should be dry, and then we get this pocket of rain coming in kind of after 8 or even 9 a.m. That goes through. We get a bit of a break perhaps into the early evening, but don't be lulled into thinking it's over with. Then on the backside, this line of storms, this is where there's the better chances actually Wednesday night into Thursday morning of there being some thunderstorms in here as well. And also this will really be kicking those winds up. So very, very gusty winds, but we do clear behind that. So it gets very, very mild. Temperatures then kind of moderate a little bit, but they're still going to be on the warmer side. Rainfall accumulation, just the potential here for over 30 millimeters. But again, I told you where that upper end may well be. And check out those winds. So they're getting stronger tomorrow through the day and into the evening, and kind of peaking really over Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Tonight, we stay above freezing, 2 degrees for that temperature, 17 tomorrow with some of that perhaps even a brief mix here before it becomes rain, and then light rain into Thursday morning. Look at the overnight low on Wednesday, 13, 19 on Thursday once we get into that sun, and then we get close to seasonal for those daytime highs after that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Colette. And thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Good night.